Picture this. It's 1968. You are sitting in the stands at the U.S. Open, and you have just watched Arthur Ashe hit, I think it was 26 blistering aces to defeat Tom Ocker.
26 aces with those old rackets, which is just insane.
It really is, and he takes it in 5 grueling sets. He makes history as the very first black man to capture the U.S. Open title.
The crowd must have been absolutely electric.
Oh, totally. It is this monumental cultural moment. But here is the twist that should honestly just stop you in your tracks.
Okay, lay it on me.
So, while the runner-up, Ocker, walks away with the $14,000 first prize money, the history-making champion Arthur Ashe receives exactly $20 a day for expenses.
Wait, $20? I mean, it genuinely sounds like a misprint in the history books, doesn't it?
Yep.
$14,000 versus $20 a day.
Right. And the reason why? Because Ashe was technically still an amateur. But more importantly, he was an active-duty first lieutenant in the United States Army at the time. Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Because this staggering pay discrepancy, it isn't just some quirky sports trivia fact.
No, it really sets the stage.
Exactly. It's the perfect entry point into understanding the paradox of Arthur Ashe. If you're thinking this is just another sports profile, stick with us.
Yeah, please do.
We're going to show you how his tennis racket was basically a Trojan horse. This is the story of a man whose quiet stoicism broke immense racial barriers, whose intellect literally shaped international policy, and who navigated heartbreaking personal tragedies with just an unparalleled sense of grace.
It's a massive, sweeping narrative. When you really dig into the source material, you realize that tennis was almost incidental to his larger life's work.
Right, it was just his platform.
Exactly, his tool. But his actual legacy is built on a foundation of profound moral conviction. And to understand how he possessed that kind of self-control, like how he handled the immense crushing pressure of a moment like that 1968 U.S. Open win, you actually have to look at how that demeanor was built from the ground up.
Which means we need to trace his steps back to his childhood in segregated Richmond, Virginia. Because his legendary stoic demeanor, it wasn't just some natural personality quirk.
Not at all. The environment he grew up in practically demanded it. Ashe was born in 1943, and tragedy struck his family very early on.
Yeah, in 1950, right.
Right. When he was just 6 years old, he lost his mother, Maddie, to preeclampsia, and she was only 27.
Wait, preeclampsia, just to clarify for anyone unfamiliar, what exactly is the mechanism there?
Good question. So, it's a severe blood pressure condition that can develop during pregnancy. It causes a sudden spike in blood pressure and can lead to organ failure.
Oh, wow. That is terrifying.
It is. And back in 1950, medical monitoring wasn't anywhere near what it is today. Plus, the healthcare options for a black woman in the segregated American South were, severely limited.
Which is just a tragic reality of the era.
Exactly. It resulted in fatal cardiovascular complications. So, Arthur and his younger brother Johnny ended up being raised solely by their father.
And his father, he was not someone who allowed for a lot of emotional outbursts. He was a very strict disciplinarian.
Very strict.
He worked as a caretaker and a special policeman for Richmond's recreation department. And the family actually lived in a caretaker's cottage right on the grounds of Brookfield Park, which was the largest, quote-unquote, blacks-only public playground in the city.
And that geographic detail, it basically dictates the rest of his life.
How so?
Well, young Arthur was very slight of build. His childhood nicknames were actually Skinny and Bones.
Oh, man.
Right. And because of this, his father flat out banned him from playing American football, which was like the most popular sport for boys in that neighborhood. He just didn't want him getting hurt.
Which pushes him toward the park's tennis court.
Exactly. He starts hitting balls around.
And that leads to the pivot point. He gets noticed by a local instructor who then brings him to the attention of Dr. Robert Walter Johnson.
A huge figure in tennis history.
Yes. Now, Dr. Johnson, he also coached Althea Gibson. He ran a massive junior development program. But he didn't just teach Ashe how to hit a tennis ball.
No, he taught him a very rigid survival tactic. Basically, racial socialization through sportsmanship.
Right. Think about the era. This is the 1950s in the South.
Dr. Johnson knew that for a black player to succeed, or honestly, even just be allowed to walk onto the court in the predominantly white, wealthy world of tennis, they had to be absolutely beyond reproach.
Perfect behavior at all times.
Right. So Ashe was instructed to never, ever argue with an umpire's decision. And even more intensely, he was taught to return every single ball that landed within 2 inches of a line.
Meaning, like, if it was even close, just give the opponent the point.
Exactly. Give him the point. Never leave room for a dispute. Do not give the white establishment any excuse to label you as angry or aggressive.
I was reading that and thinking, Dr. Johnson wasn't just teaching him a backhand. He was essentially training him to be a geopolitical diplomat before he was even a teenager.
That's a great way to put it.
Every swing of the racket was a lesson in self-control. It was like he was teaching him how to defuse a bomb. Every time a line call was bad, it was a test. Do you explode or do you internalize it to survive?
Right.
But I do have to push back a little here. Is that even fair to put on a kid? Like, to demand that level of emotional suppression?
Fair. No, absolutely not. But it wasn't about fairness. It was about survival.
Wow.
This extreme emotional discipline became Ashe's signature weapon. It wasn't just good manners, right? It was necessary armor. It allowed him to navigate spaces that were actively hostile to his presence.
And the hostility was deeply systemic. I mean, even with all that talent, by 1960, segregation laws in Richmond meant Ashe couldn't use the city's indoor courts in the winter.
Right, he was legally precluded from competing against white youths during the school year.
So, to simply compete freely and practice indoors, he was forced to leave his home. He had to move to St. Louis for his senior year of high school.
That alone shows the immense friction he was constantly pushing against just to play the game.
But the move works. His physical strength catches up, he hones this massive serve and volley game, and he earns a tennis scholarship to UCLA.
Where he just absolutely thrives. He gets to practice with his idol, Pancho Gonzalez, and he joins the ROTC to help pay for his education.
Which sets up the next massive collision in his life.
Yes, it does. Because after graduating, that ROTC commitment comes due. He joins the U.S. Army in 1966, eventually getting commissioned as a second lieutenant, and he's working as a data processor at West Point, where he also runs their tennis program.
Wait, hold on. I need to pause you there. If Ashe is an active duty lieutenant in the U.S. Army in 1968, the Vietnam War is raging.
Oh, it is at its peak.
So how is he even allowed to play a civilian tennis tournament like the U.S. Open? Doesn't the military own his schedule?
Well, they do, but the military also really valued his public relations potential. Right, so they assigned him to West Point and allowed him time to compete in major tournaments as an amateur, basically to represent the Army in a positive light. But here is the detail that truly reframes his entire 1968 season. There is a profound, almost unimaginable family sacrifice behind his ability to be on that court.
Yes. And I really want you, the listener, to stop and picture what this means. His younger brother, Johnny, was a Marine who had just finished a tour in Vietnam.
A full combat tour.
Right. And Johnny actually chose to volunteer to serve a second additional tour of duty in the war zone in Arthur's place.
Which is just, it's staggering.
The military had a policy that prevented two brothers from serving in a combat zone at the same time. And Johnny did that specifically so Arthur wouldn't be deployed.
It's hard to even wrap your mind around. Johnny literally absorbed the physical danger of a war zone to protect his brother's historic trajectory.
Think about the psychological load he's carrying on the court. How do your hands not shake holding the racket?
Seriously.
Every time Arthur throws a ball into the air to serve, he knows that the only reason he is on that pristine grass and not in a jungle dodging mortar fire is because his brother offered up his own body.
Not to mention, he's also carrying his military duty and the hopes and heavy expectations of Black America during the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah, 1968 is the year Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy were assassinated.
Exactly. So how does a person even swing a racket under that kind of pressure?
It's unbelievable.
But what's fascinating here is that he didn't just swing the racket, he dominated the entire sport.
He really did.
If you look at that single calendar year of 1968, underneath all of that psychological weight, Arthur Ashe won the U.S. Open, he won the U.S. Amateur Championship, and he led the U.S. team to win the Davis Cup.
Unbelievable.
All while technically serving in the military. It is one of the most astonishing displays of mental fortitude in modern history.
So having conquered the U.S. Open, Ashe realizes that this armor he built, this composed, brilliant mind, it can do more than just win trophies.
Much more.
He realizes his racket is a tool that can shape international politics, leading to one of the most complex moral conflicts of his career.
Yes, dealing with the apartheid regime in South Africa.
Right. So in 1969, Ashe applied for a visa to play in the South African Open.
And the South African government denied him, explicitly because of their strict policies of racial segregation. They did not want a prominent Black athlete competing against and potentially beating white players on their soil.
But Ashe doesn't just put his head down. He weaponizes their denial.
He does.
He uses it to campaign for U.S. sanctions, and he pushes incredibly hard to get South Africa expelled from the Davis Cup competition.
He turned a personal slight into a geopolitical lever. And it worked. He successfully pushed to get them expelled in 1970.
It's amazing. But the story doesn't end there.
No. By 1973, the South African government was really feeling the isolation. They were desperate to rejoin the international sports community, so they reversed course. They finally granted him a visa.
And I'm stuck on this point. Why go? He just spent years successfully banning them. Why accept the visa?
Because Ashe genuinely believed that his presence, his success on the court in front of integrated or segregated crowds, could act as a battering ram against racist stereotypes.
He thought visibility would force change from the inside out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he goes, he plays, he wins the doubles title, and reaches the singles final.
But then reality hits. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's 1977, and Ashe is at the U.S. Open addressing a crowd of boycott supporters. And he does something you almost never see a global sports icon do.
Almost never.
He publicly admits he was wrong. He tells the crowd he made a mistake in playing in South Africa.
Which raises an important question. What changed his mind?
Right.
He had a highly specific, visceral awakening. He tried to purchase tickets for some young African fans to watch a match in South Africa, and he was directed by the staff to an Africans-only counter.
Wow.
That indignity, the sudden realization that his celebrity status hadn't actually moved the needle for everyday Black South Africans, it broke through his diplomatic approach.
He realized his mere presence wasn't enough to dismantle a system that brutal. So he completely self-corrects. He immediately resumes calling for total sports boycotts against the nation. It just shows his ultimate dedication to the truth over his own ego.
It requires immense security in your own identity to say, my strategy failed, let's pivot, especially on a global stage.
Absolutely. But, while he was fighting these massive moral battles internationally back on the court, he was facing a much more immediate physical threat, his legacy.
A threat named Jimmy Connors.
The 1975 Wimbledon final. Just imagine the awkwardness in the locker room for this one.
Oh, it must have been unbearable.
If Ashe was the quiet, diplomatic tactician, Connors was the brash, aggressive powerhouse.
The total opposite.
Right. And going into this final, Connors was the defending champion. He was the overwhelming favorite. The guy hadn't dropped a single set the entire tournament.
He's a machine.
And the tension off the court, you're lacing up your shoes, trying to get in the zone to win the most prestigious trophy on earth, and the guy sitting across from you is actively trying to drain your bank account.
Right, because Connors was actively suing Arthur Ashe for $5 million in a libel suit at that exact moment.
Oh, over comments Ashe made criticizing Connors for boycotting the Davis Cup. I mean, that is a whole new level of psychological warfare.
It really was.
Yeah.
And Ashe knew he couldn't overpower Connors physically. Connors thrived on pace. It's like a martial artist using your own momentum against you. The harder you hit the ball to Jimmy, the faster it came back.
So Ashe decides to play a game of sheer intellect. But the psychological warfare started before the first serve was even hit.
The jacket.
Exactly. Ashe walks onto center court, the most hallowed traditional ground in tennis, pointedly wearing his red, white, and blue USA Davis Cup warm-up jacket and wristbands.
Which is such a brilliant silent dagger.
It really is. The whole root of their legal dispute was Connors refusing to play for the Davis Cup team, which Ashe considered unpatriotic, so Ashe is just wrapping himself in the flag without saying a single word.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this match is the ultimate vindication of Ashe's mind. Because once play begins, Ashe executes a flawless tactical game.
He really does.
As you mentioned, Connors needs pace, so Ashe gives him the exact opposite. It gives him junk, soft, angled shots, chips, lobs.
He effectively starves Connors of the kinetic energy he needs to power his own game. It forces Connors to generate all the power himself, which leads to overhitting and mistakes.
Ashe completely disrupted his rhythm. He dismantled him. Ashe wins in 4 sets, just days shy of his 32nd birthday.
It is a masterclass in strategy. He beat a younger, more aggressive powerhouse using pure mental fortitude.
And surprise, surprise, Connors dropped the libel lawsuit soon after.
Naturally. So Ashe proved that raw power could be defeated by a superior disciplined mind. He reached the absolute pinnacle of the sport.
He did.
But as we move into the later chapters of his life, the battles he faced shifted drastically. His greatest fights wouldn't be against opponents on a grass court. They would be shocking, hidden battles within his own body.
And this is where the story takes a deeply tragic turn. Despite his elite athleticism, despite being in peak physical condition, Ashe suffers a heart attack in 1979.
And he's only 36 years old.
Just 36.
How does that happen to a 36-year-old professional athlete?
It brought national attention to the hereditary aspects of heart disease. Remember, his mother died at 27 of cardiovascular complications, and his father had multiple heart attacks in his 50s.
Oh, right.
Genetics caught up with him despite his incredible fitness. He required a quadruple bypass operation.
He retires from professional tennis the following year. But then, in 1983, he has to undergo a second corrective heart surgery. And it's during the surgery that he receives a blood transfusion.
A transfusion that would alter the course of his remaining years. Because 5 years later, in 1988, Ashe starts experiencing paralysis in his right arm.
Which is terrifying.
Doctors perform exploratory brain surgery and discover he has toxoplasmosis.
Again, for the listener, what is the mechanism behind toxoplasmosis? Why was that such a red flag?
Right, so toxoplasmosis is an infection caused by a parasite. For someone with a healthy immune system, it's usually nothing. Maybe mild flu-like symptoms and your body just fights it off.
Got it.
But if your immune system is severely compromised, it can't fight the parasite, and it causes serious neurological issues like arm paralysis.
Oh.
When doctors saw that infection in an otherwise healthy 45-year-old athlete, they knew his immune system was failing.
Oh.
That's what prompted the HIV test.
And it revealed the devastating truth. Arthur Ashe was HIV positive.
He and his doctors traced it back to that 1983 blood transfusion.
Now, Ashe and his wife, Jean, make the deeply personal decision to keep this illness private. They had a young daughter, Camera, who is just 2 years old.
They wanted to protect her and their family from the intense, often cruel stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS in the late 1980s.
Which makes perfect sense. And they managed to keep it private for 4 years. But in 1992, the media landscape intervened.
A reporter from USA Today heard a rumor about his illness and contacted him, essentially forcing Ashe's hand.
Yeah. Rather than let a tabloid-style story break, Ashe preemptively calls a press conference to announce his illness to the world. And the public reaction was visceral. Readers were absolutely furious at USA Today for stripping him of his privacy.
They really were.
But this is the moment that makes you step back and ask, so what does this all mean? Look at how Arthur Ashe reacts.
He had every right to be angry. He had every right to retreat into privacy, to spend his remaining time in bitterness. But instead, he instantly pivoted.
He turns into an educator overnight. He founds the Arthur Ashe Foundation for the Defeat of AIDS.
He spends his final months tirelessly advocating for health care. He speaks at the United Nations General Assembly.
He spends time debunking the harmful myths of the era, reminding people that HIV wasn't just a disease affecting gay men or IV drug users, it was a human disease. He raises awareness and crucial funding.
And he also spent his final months racing against the clock to finish his memoir, Days of Grace.
Right.
He completed the manuscript less than a week before he died of AIDS-related pneumonia in February 1993.
He was just 49 years old.
49.
It is so difficult to distill the vastness of a life like that into a single conversation. We set out today to understand his legacy. And yes, the tennis records are staggering.
Oh, absolutely.
He remains the only black man to win singles titles at Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and the Australian Open.
But, as he himself stated, his 3-volume historical work, A Hard Road to Glory, which was a history of the African-American athlete, that was more important to him than any tennis title.
Yeah.
His civil rights work, his protests against apartheid, his advocacy for Haitian refugees, his fight for AIDS awareness, these were the true measures of his life.
It was his relentless dignity. Which leaves us with one final, powerful visual for you to ponder on your own time. In 1996, the city of Richmond, Virginia, posthumously honored Arthur Ashe by unveiling a statue of him.
And they placed it on Monument Avenue.
Right. And if we connect this to the historical context we discussed at the beginning, Monument Avenue was a street traditionally reserved entirely for towering statues of Confederate heroes, the former capital of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
Imagine the profound poetic justice of that image. The skinny young boy who was legally banned from playing on the indoor tennis courts of his own city because of the color of his skin.
The kid who had to suppress every emotion just to survive.
Right. He is now standing permanently immortalized in bronze among its most famous monuments.
It's incredible.
A lasting testament to how quiet, unbreakable grace can, quite literally, rewrite history.